Welcome to The Edge of NFT, the podcast that brings you the top 1% of Web3 today and what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts of the business side and also the human element of how Web3 is changing the way we interact with the things we love. This podcast is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers who are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
Hi everyone, Josh Kriger here live. It's the Edge of NFT again, and I'm here with none other than the chairman of Animoca Brands, Yat Siu. It's great to see you in person. It's been a minute, but it's more so like passing by each other. We've been flying through Singapore, Korea, and now we're in Dubai. Actually, we're not in Dubai, we're in Ras, but we've been in the Middle East region for a few weeks running into each other. You've traveled the world, why is this region important to Animoca Brands and to the overall blockchain landscape?
So first of all, the Middle East is generally super exciting. Demographically, it's a very young population. A large part of the gaming community actually is coming from here in terms of emerging. When you look at a place like Saudi, I think something like 85 or 86% of the population is under the age of 36, and they love gaming. It's one of the highest ARPU markets in the world.
Interesting.
Right? When you even look at other markets, like Turkey or Egypt, young market as well in terms of population, and very much interest in all sort of things to asset. And of course,
same type of games as like Asia, or like have you kind of delved into what types of games they like to play here?
Well, most of the games that people play here are sort of first-person shooters, and RPGs, very similar to what you see in the West, and some games from Asia. But I would say mostly it's Western game studio games that they're playing here. But a deep interest and a hunger to create new, very specific domestic titles that actually speak to the local market. And that's actually the opportunity that we and others see as well here in terms of a strong, thriving local market that actually has a hunger to develop it. I mean, take Saudi as an example. It has an esports ministry and it has a sovereign gaming fund. I can't think of many countries, if any, that, for instance, has that kind of commitment, for instance.
Yeah.
And then when you think about the level of investment that happens, for instance, here in the UAE, whether this is in Abu Dhabi or whether this is in Dubai, in things of like digital assets, and sort of Web3 broadly speaking. This is one of the most sort of diverse investment places that you can find, and interest in the space, for instance. So yeah, I think there's many reasons to be here for all sorts of reasons.
And for others as well that are, Coinbase is considering
Yes.
this region. Would you touch upon like why it's important for non-gaming
Yes.
companies? Are you advocating they also sort of have a presence here?
I think so. I mean, first of all, particularly when you see what's happening in places like the US, people are sort of wanting to go somewhere where you have a little bit of clarity, where you now know what's going on.
A playbook, some kind of playbook.
Yeah, to say, hey, this is okay. Or
Even if it's 1,300 pages, give us a playbook.
Tell us what to do. And right now, because of the way that things are being enforced without real clarity, even the likes of giants like Coinbase are finding their way, having to sort of consider offshore places where they have at least some clarity so they can actually conduct these valuable services that they do. So I think, to me though, this region and other places like Hong Kong, for instance, are similar in this regard, actually is positive. Because it's also good to have a little bit of global competition, right? Because at the end of the day, people need to know where the talent is going to go. And if the talent can't stay in one place because it's hostile, then they'll go somewhere else because talent is super mobile. And I think the regions like this demonstrate that it's fluid. I mean, just look at how many people from around the world are in Dubai, for instance. It's super international now.
Yeah, we've seen that people move quickly. They're willing to sort of migrate, and that nomadic tendency takes over. You want to find a place where you can innovate and be creative and not have boundaries, right?
Correct.
So that makes
Correct.
a lot of sense. Speaking of innovation, I remember fondly our first show where I got to meet you, where you shared your story of sort of your fight with Apple in the early days.
Exactly.
And like, the fight doesn't stop, right? So, just to paraphrase, you had some, multiple award-winning games at the top of the charts, and then you got kicked off.
You got deplatformed, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so pushing the envelope is sort of in your DNA and the DNA of culture of Animoca Brands, and you're doing that again with Life Beyond.
Right.
Right. And for those that don't know, this is sort of a Bitcoin-powered game coming up. Why Bitcoin? Why does the world need a game powered on Bitcoin?
So first, great question. One of the things that we've all said before is we look at L1, L2s, and generally blockchains as kind of like national economies or nation states in and of itself.
Okay.
And so Bitcoin is a country, effectively. It has a very certain culture. and it has a very certain dynamic that takes place. And that's true basically for a lot of blockchains around the world.
But is this apples, oranges, and bananas here?
No, it is about how we sort of enter the markets in cultural context that we can then maybe export out afterwards. But if you want to sell into a market, imagine if you're making shoes for Switzerland. Well, you don't want to just make shoes just for Switzerland. You want to sell it to America. You want to sell it to Germany. You want to sell it to China, for instance, if you could. But if you were only ever restricted to one ecosystem, then you wouldn't be able to sort of expand your market. So that's one aspect of it. But in this comparison, one of the areas that wasn't possible before Ordinals was a way to store digital culture. Right now, in the past, Bitcoin was very much the store of value, perhaps the preeminent store of digital value. But now with Ordinals, you can store culture, you can store heritage, you can inscribe all sorts of interesting things about sort of who you are and sort of the prestige or whatever it is that you're building.
So that's kind of the zeitgeist of gaming, is this culture, right?
It is culture. I mean, everything we do in gaming, which billions of people do today, is actually trying to sort of store those forms of digital culture. You could argue that every moment in game is a kind of inscription of some sort, for instance, right? And some of them are valuable and some of them are not, but most importantly, they mean something to you. And also, if you look at Bitcoin as a nation, there's a whole bunch of people on Bitcoin who will never leave Bitcoin for any other platforms, for instance, as well. So it makes sense to offer services there. When you think of market value, Bitcoin is also the one that has the biggest one of all. So,
and no one argues about it being decentralized across the world. So that gives you sort of a freedom to be creative and to onboard from every country.
And the way that I see of it is that the kind of games that launch on Bitcoin will have a very, very different flavor about them because of, if I was to translate it this way, the nation that is Bitcoin, right? In the same way that when you launch a game in America, it's going to look very different in terms of its feel and organization and commercialization as a game that would launch in Japan or China, for instance, because of the community that's there. And that's the same thing. Having sort of a game like Life Beyond that focuses itself on the Bitcoin community and wants to be sort of inside the Bitcoin culture will give it a specific sort of narrative and a specific, I would say, domestic edge that, if you just take a generic game and just say it's one size fits all, it's simply not going to
make sense. And you guys are not sort of stopping there when it comes to innovation. You put a considerable amount of focus and energy into creating Mocaverse. We have a monthly segment with them called the Moca Moment. It's a ton of fun.
It's wonderful.
Getting updates from everyone in the team and sort of sharing in this very fast-moving locomotive train, I would say. At the same time, there's some really exciting developments that haven't really come to fruition yet with these Moca IDs. So I've reserved mine. I've shared with everyone I know an opportunity to reserve. We just did a contest. But people are curious, what are Moca IDs all about and why now with this particular movement?
So first, what Moca ID is trying to do is create basically decentralized IDs as soul-bound tokens as a way to basically create really sort of a way to not just onboard Web2 users, but also provide an identity layer that can be decentralized and can be truly yours in a manner that for things that we've learned in our own experiences. For instance, take things like KYC, a very simple example. We had to KYC for several games because of the value. Well, what if you had an ID that was already pre-KYC? You don't have to go and KYC a new wallet each and every time. You just simply know that the customer is already KYC'd and it's okay. And one of the problems, of course, we had in the past was that people KYC and get the wallet, and then they sell the wallet, right? And then you actually don't know if it's a real user, for instance. Whereas essentially, if it's soul-bound token, actually it does away with some of the issues of people basically, doubling their identity, as it were, right? Wallets itself actually aren't an effective source of identity, but a soul-bound NFT that basically represents your ID actually is much more effective this way.
And then there's going to be a lot of perks, like the way that Kyle described it to me. It's like airlines program on Web3 steroids.
So the idea is that there's going to be...
or I think I described it him that way.
Exactly.
I heard what he said.
Basically, it's a way to sort of create your digital reputation that can accrete over your ID so that you can know stuff about it. And the vision really about a decentralized ID is not that we control it, is that other people actually can now compose freely on top of it. So imagine a decentralized Steam. What would that look like? It wouldn't be that you have to use Steam to go in. You just have to know basically who the users are, and you can target them directly. And it's more of a pull marketing rather than push. For instance, every person who played a first-person shooter, I'll give you a 10% discount if you try a first-person shooter. How do I know you played a first-person shooter? Your Moca ID has that record. It has that history. It has all these details around it. So the point is that
you can just be and do as a human what you enjoy,
and people will come to you
and come to you
and offer you the products and services.
You don't have to register 100 times.
Yes.
You don't have to sort of keep saying, "Hey, I did this," right?
And we have over 450 investments in the portfolio. We have also our own games and studios. All of them would be able to utilize and benefit in the shared network effect that Moca ID will offer.
Well, I'm excited. That's a little bit of foreshadowing. The Edge of company certainly has some ideas for perks we can offer this ecosystem.
We look forward to that.
It's not just limited to 8,888 Moca owners or a subset, because a lot of us hold more than one.
Yes.
Which I definitely encourage you to check out. But this is for the entire world to get some benefit.
Exactly. And of course, the next level benefit, of course, is that we want to teach people about governance. We want to teach people about the kind of power that they have with a Moca ID and with Mocaverse NFTs, like how we do it with ApeCoin governance and many of our other future token projects.
A little bit less invasive than having to get your eyeball scanned too.
Yes, absolutely. I think the eyeball scanning thing is somewhat, and again, how is that stored and who controls it and what do they do with the data? Do we actually know? Right?
And what if that gets hacked? Because eyeballs are becoming very important identity mechanisms for secure things that you don't want to tap into.
I mean, the way that we think of the future of identity, decentralized identity, is that we may be a way to connect other identity layers, but we don't know what's in it. So in other words, you as an end user would then give permission to say, I'm okay with you to take data from these 10 different sources or 3 different sources or 5 different sources, which we never have. And personally, I think decentralized identities on blockchain are going to solve many of the privacy issues that places like Europe have, for instance, because now you can truly guarantee that the company that might be managing your ID actually doesn't know that much about you.
Very powerful concept. So you get to go home soon to Hong Kong because Ape Fest is coming up.
Yes.
But there's going to be a really exciting side event that the Mocaverse and Animoca Brands community is cooking up. Can you just tell our listeners about that in case they want to sort of book a flight?
Yeah. So I mean, we're going to have a little event in Mocaverse. I think it's a boat trip from it's been changing a little bit back and forth, but that's kind of what happened. And Sandbox is also having a very cool event on the 3rd as well.
Okay, cool.
Right? Generally speaking, I would tell everyone just come to FinTech Week because there's going to be tens of thousands of people coming in who are sort of Web3 enthusiasts and interests. It's not just Ape Fest, it's Mocaverse, it's Sandbox, and it's all these little side events. Don't just come for us, come for the fact that everyone else is building something there around that really exciting week. Come to Hong Kong.
All right. Yeah, thanks for hanging out for a few. Good to see you as always.
Thank you so much.
Hello and welcome to Edge of NFT again, live in actually not Dubai, but Raz at the Digital Oasis Summit. It's been pretty amazing few weeks and had a lovely lunch and happened to be sitting next to someone I thought we should all get to know better. This is Yanislav Malahov, also known as the godfather of Ethereum. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
We're 2 years into the craze, if you will, around sort of non-fungible tokens, but there's actually a long, complex and sophisticated history. I think one thing that jumps out to me is now it's all about the immutability of Bitcoin as a sort of potential avenue for sort of creating NFTs in sort of a different sort of way called Ordinals. But you sort of have been around the earlier genesis of this concept. So why don't we just start there? Because I think it's a fascinating story. Tell us a little bit more about sort of the previous 10 years, what some of the sort of early conversations were about Bitcoin and what might be possible in terms of what we now know as NFTs.
Yeah, I discovered Bitcoin in 2011, and in 2013 I was working on a colored coin wallet. Nowadays you would say NFT art issuance wallet. Effectively, it was maybe the first wallet and platform which supported artists to timestamp their artwork and issue editions, which we called back then like these NFTs. According to, let's say, the art world standard. So,
and what made you decide to do that, to go down that journey? Because at that time, I feel like even more so than now, people thought of Bitcoin as sort of store of value and a more traditional like fintech concept of sort of a new version of sort of democratizing capital, right? So why did this even come to mind?
So I decided to become like a blockchain, crypto, or back then Bitcoin professional. So there was not much talk about blockchain either back then. It was Bitcoin and a few altcoins. And I found somebody who wanted to do a project in the digital art world, experienced entrepreneur from Canada. I mean, we met each other in the famous or infamous Room 77 Bitcoin bar in Berlin, which was the first brick and mortar store which ever started accepting Bitcoin already in 2010 or 2010. I pitched to him this kind of like idea of this project. So he wanted to do something with Bitcoin and digital art, also because of his wife, who was an art world professional, a curator for physical and digital art, as far as I remember. So this is how these things got together, and I was also working with Vitalik on some other, let's say, things. We were hanging out in Calafu in summer 2013 and also in Milano, like rather, let's say, living the anarchist, crypto-anarchist lifestyle.
How old was Vitalik at that time? I mean,
he must have been like 19, something like this. Yes.
Okay,
I think he was just barely an adult. Like a legal adult.
So did you have these conversations over coffee or drinks or in one of your housing at that moment?
It was over laptops, I would say.
Laptops.
So nothing. No.
We didn't have co-working spaces really then, right? Or were there?
It was so Calafu was like a, how shall I say, like a community of people who left let's say the society to live in a abandoned factory which was half burned down as well, and like really building technology for, let's say, people who are completely out of society. This was one of the, let's say, the main ideas behind this community. I mean, for us it was rather, let's say, a temporary visits. So we were there, I think, for around 10 days or 2 weeks. I remember Vitalik sleeping on a super thin mattress, kind of like on the floor. It was super basic living standards, and yeah, we were living a very different lifestyle.
Okay, so I'm actually curious, were there ramen noodles being served in this communal kitchen, or were you all eating fresh food to sort of spark all these creative ideas?
That was freshly cooked food by the community chefs. And I remember one thing, that we need to wash our dishes with this 2-bucket methodology, essentially. So there was no running water. It was just 2 buckets, and one dirty bucket, one clean bucket, and then you dry the dishes. So yeah, same way how usually it's get done in Thailand on the street. I also remember that Vitalik back then was waking up really early as well and spending all of his day on his laptop. And sometimes we went for walks. This was like the distraction we had, and we climbed together. We climbed Mount Montserrat next to Barcelona, between Calafu and Barcelona. There's also a picture of us standing on the peak, and yeah, this was all before Ethereum. Quickly after our Calafu.
I mean, how old were you back then, if you don't mind me asking?
I was. This was 2013, so I was 26.
Okay, so you were the older mentor.
Yeah.
Seen a few things, but still sort of inspired by some of the same principles as Vitalik around sort of democratization of the global economy, right?
Sure. I mean, Vitalik was famous for writing the Bitcoin magazine. I think at this point he wrote more than half of it. And I originally got in contact with his co-founder Mihai Alicia, who brought Vitalik into the Bitcoin magazine as a writer. And Mihai also became a co-founder of the Ethereum project. But back to the NFT story. I still need to try to find the old private keys from 10 years ago. It would be fascinating to activate these NFTs. I mean, they are on the blockchain. We have the proofs, we have the timestamps, we have the hashes of the artwork.
Just missing the keys.
Yeah, but we never
they're
had
somewhere.
expected that there would be such a, let's say, craze around NFTs, and they would be sold for many millions, or some of the NFTs would be selling for many millions. Nobody would have expected this in 2013. Otherwise, obviously, we would have just framed everything and and saved it. But yeah, so maybe one of the lessons here for your audience is to never give up and just to hold on to really great original ideas, because at some point, if the timing is right, it might be a really good opportunity to get some value out of the work.
Yeah, I mean, so now we have the movement around Ordinals, and there's a lot of folks in the community that think that there's some benefits of minting off of Bitcoin. There's also side chains of Bitcoin being created, the BRC21 and some more recent updates since then.
Yeah.
Would you say that was also unexpected? And what are your thoughts on sort of where this renaissance of Bitcoin art goes from here?
I mean, obviously the Bitcoin blockchain has been used for many things, not just transactions, but prior years, like 10 years ago, it was very, let's say, not very well accepted in the Bitcoin community to do.
Yeah. The maxis didn't like it very much.
Yes. So I was also afraid that they're gonna crucify us because we were timestamping artwork on the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, since there are so many blockchains, and since through the increase of the block size, or the indirect increase of the block size, there is more space and there is so much competition. I think it's great for the Bitcoin blockchain to have more use cases. But what do you think? Like, is it more accepted now with the Bitcoin community to use it for digital art?
I think the answer is yes and no. I think the maxis are holding to their belief that around the purity of Bitcoin as a store of value, but I think that community is getting smaller. And I think that there's more folks that are seeing Bitcoin for more than just a store of value, and I think there's a lot of folks excited about the potential to sort of do things with Bitcoin. We already know that it's fully decentralized and accepted in that manner, as opposed to all the new cryptocurrencies out there.
Yeah.
And I think this idea of immutability is very powerful as a concept, because you're not tied to IPFS, you're not tied to a marketplace like OpenSea. It's engraved. I think there's still sort of some exploration of how you determine different value. I know Casey's come up with some concepts that the community is sort of rallied around, I would say. But it's too early to tell. I mean, similar to back then, 10 years ago, I think that if there's anything we've all learned in this space, it's that it's not hard to, it's very difficult to predict the future, right? And when we try, we're usually wrong. At least when it comes to this type of innovation. With that said, I'm sure there's this warmth in your heart from those early days, sort of with Vitalik and what has been created since then. Could you have imagined Ethereum being where it is at this moment in time back then?
Back then, when I was working with Vitalik, there was no Ethereum. We were actually chatting about what we could improve of our token system. So this is maybe also how Ethereum kind of got born as a project, because we were working on this colored coin wallet project for Trent McGonaghy in the field of digital art, but Vitalik was also working with some Israeli colored coin projects. There was also a protocol called Counterparty, which I think was used by a few big projects back then, and I think it's got rebranded into Mastercoin got rebranded into Omni, and also Tether was first issued as a Mastercoin protocol token.
Right.
So issuing tokens on top of the Bitcoin blockchain is not exactly a new thing. This has been definitely done for more than 10 years. And what we did with Vitalik is to really target the digital artwork markets as developers, but it was also not our company. So, sorry, your question was?
We're just predicting sort of, I guess, as when you saw, you were around though as well when Ethereum was created.
Yeah.
After knowing Vitalik, knowing what you knew about him as a human,
Yeah.
his characteristics and sort of, his technical acumen, would you have predicted that Ethereum would be where it is now and would have grown into this massive ecosystem?
I actually had given up temporarily on Ethereum. I was part of the first Ethereum Miami house where, let's say, all the initial co-founders got together. And,
okay, so these hacker houses, these are also not a new thing. Got it.
Yeah, this was in January, late January 2014 for the North American Bitcoin conference in Miami. Which was, I think, led by Mo. Mo was also organizing conferences in Amsterdam, where we also went to prior, actually. And
so these side chains sort of building at other conferences, this has also been a trend that's been around quite a while, right?
Yes.
So now ETH Denver is all about the side chains building. So
Yes.
so we all have this sort of there's a lot of interesting history in terms of the culture of crypto and blockchain that is not new. It's in sort of ingrained in the DNA of the industry.
yeah, but I mean, you said hacker house, it's not a new thing. Absolutely not a new thing. I mean, the hacker houses, these anarchist communities, they were more like hacker houses than this Miami thing. This Miami thing was more like a business house.
Yeah,
This was my
they
impression.
were
This was
just in abandoned factories back then.
Yeah, for example, abandoned factories, or actually in Milano it was an abandoned slaughterhouse management facility. It was a house of the management of the slaughterhouse, but still a slaughterhouse.
Okay.
It was quite beautiful in there actually, but lots of tiger mosquitoes. You can't imagine. Tiger mosquitoes are really the
They
worst.
sound vicious.
But really, one key thing what essentially made me not believe in Ethereum early on was that it was too much business driven and too less technologically driven. And this is also why I started another blockchain. It's called Æternity, which is like a next generation smart contract platform. It's not anymore that new. I also started it already 6 years ago. It's the mainnet is live for 5 years now. But since I studied computer science and was also really a big fan of functional programming as a better way of doing algorithms,
Timestamping too, right? It has a timestamping functionality.
Every blockchain is a timestamping
Essentially, I guess what else differentiates it from other blockchains?
Æternity is written in Erlang, written from scratch, and the smart contract language follows a functional paradigm, and generally it abstracts on a higher level. Also, the virtual machine abstracts on a higher level. So instead of having like assembler code in the virtual machine as symbols, so you can do more optimizations for running these programs on specific hardware, but you still need to do this, meaning so far no optimizations have been done, but the virtual machine is already 10 times more space efficient, or the smart contracts, the bytecode of smart contracts is 10 times more space efficient than the bytecode on the EVM. So we really try to innovate on every level. We also have a different mining algorithm. Æternity is still proof of work, but the clue was that we were, it didn't really work out as we expected it, but we wanted that people with smartphones could also efficiently participate in the consensus with the mining, because the algorithm was not efficiently computable by CPUs. So
you were thinking mobile sort of friendly at that time.
Yes.
So what's next on your roadmap that folks have to look forward to?
I think the next big thing, what we are all waiting for almost now 2 years, is the launch of hyperchains, which is the next generation of Æternity style blockchains, and everybody should be able to launch hyperchains. It's kind of like child chains for Bitcoin, but It could be any other parent chain as well. It could be also Dogecoin. It could be also
Cool.
Litecoin, for example. So we want to make it as easy as possible that you can launch a proof of stake child chain called hyperchain for a proof of work mother or parent chain.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be really powerful as a concept. So when's that coming out?
I hope soon.
Soon.
But this development is done by the Eternity Foundation, and since we try to be as decentralized as possible, I'm not really involved with the core developers so much. I'm giving the initial ideas and writing about things. I'm really
Once
talking
again,
about,
you're like a mentor or coach.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I am not giving any promises about delivery dates or so, and I even open sourced the whole concept so that other people could also just implement the hyperchains consensus mechanism for their needs, because we believe it's the most safe consensus mechanism, because it's taking the best of both worlds, proof of work and proof of stake, without paying for the proof of work, reusing it.
Very cool. And where can people go to learn more about Eternity?
About Eternity on eternity.com with the AE.
AE.
Eternity, and then there's a forum, and well, I guess there are quite some materials on YouTube, and there's also documentation hub in case people are more technical, and of course GitHub.
Very cool. And are you on Twitter, or X as they call it now?
I am on X. I was ironically just asking, my last tweet on Twitter was, I think, shall I tweet more on Twitter? And then the rebranding took place. So I didn't tweet more on Twitter. But you can find historic tweets from me. My handle is NOYYY.
All right. Well, Yanni, this is really fun. Thanks for bearing the seat outside to find a quiet place to chat and get to know each other better. And
It's really hot here.
Yeah, brutal. But I think your story is powerful and important for the world to know. I've learned a lot today in terms of how our history is so important. We always think in the moment everything feels different. Right, but I think understanding the history of Bitcoin, the history of NFTs is so important for the community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, Josh Kriger, co-host of Edge of NFT, and I'm live in Dubai with a dear friend and previous guest on the show, the one and only Vesa. It's great to see you IRL finally, and no less in front of your beautiful art. So how are you, my friend?
Josh, amazing. Finally, in real life.
Yeah.
It's been what, at least 2 years or something?
At least 2 years, and it's because of you that I was exposed to everything going on in the Dubai Web3 scene, and thank you for sort of ushering us into Dubai. We really appreciate your hospitality and your stewardship for what's going on here.
Well, you stewarded me into Los Angeles, so it's the circle of goodness, I guess.
So what is this amazing piece of art behind us? What's going on here?
Well, this is from the Dubai and UAE standpoint, this is an early crypto artwork, which was made in 2020, around the time when I came here first. And I was introduced to the amazing Dr. Marwan
Yes.
and his wife Miriam, who are kind of depicted over there, as she was working with the Emirati space program, and Dr. Marwan is the CEO of the Dubai Blockchain Center, so I was honoring their patronage to be a part of it, and it's the Dubai skyline that you have there in the bottom. And we were discussing on how to tokenize potentially the royal horses, so that was one thing. So it has this liquid sort of powerful, gentle feel of what this place really is on the sidelines. And since it has a Mars program, that's the Mars rocket is the only one that is going higher than the Burj Khalifa. So there's a few symbolic things.
Yeah, I heard about the program to get a colony on Mars. I guess next century. So
it's ambitious. It's ambitious.
But with ambition comes possibility. So it's been a minute since we've caught up, and you're always sort of on the cutting edge as well of art and generative AI as well as Web3. What are some of your reflections at this current moment in time?
Well, it's been a tough couple of years. in the bear market, but as always, even in the events that we've now done, many of them, WoW Summit was the last one.
Yeah,
it was a
we
little
were
bit
a media partner for them as well just a couple days ago.
incredible event. They did an amazing job. It was slightly more quiet than usual, but what I enjoy about the bear markets is that you have less of the hypey type people. It's the real builders who kind of go through the bear markets, and especially throughout this time. And I'm sure next year we're going to start picking back up again. NFTs are not dead. They're coming back in the next cycle, and hopefully a little bit more mature and a little bit more wise way.
So this is a peculiar question to ask someone that's more of an artist, and you've been into digital art, for a long time. You shared your perspective on the history of art and how it's sort of evolved to this point. But when you look at sort of the practical use cases for, verifiable digital assets, at the end of the day, are you still super excited about the real world utility of like tokenizing something like cars? I know you have that project with Dr. Marwan. Or are there other use cases that you think are more promising, or is it just a combination of all of the above or none of the above?
Well, it's a combination. How we utilized NFTs for the first run of it, I'm not too big of a fan of. I understand that that's what happened to ICOs, but ICOs essentially didn't go anywhere. It's just we got wiser in how we implement them. But yeah, we have plans on essentially that digital artwork becoming a part of your identity. It's no longer a painting on your wall. It's something that you transform into a variety of different forms. And we're innovating how we sell the IP and how we help with our partners, kind of our clients and collectors, to become part of this new wave and experiment with us, because it's difficult to see what is going to take off, what is going to be the popular thing. That we don't know, but we have a very solid vision of where we're going in order to kind of showcase, okay, so here's your car, this is what a villa could look like, this is what the metaverse version of that villa is like, doesn't this jet look cool, and all of these things we have, but there's another side to it, which is, for example, this one project that I'm working with Dr. Narisa from KogoPay, is that her actual real passion is these orphanages in Thailand. So wow. What we did is that, because what really got me into this space to begin with was Andreas Antonopoulos' videos and the Bad Crypto podcast guys, but in particular the Andreas Antonopoulos, when he said that there's about 3.5 billion people in the world without a bank account. So I started thinking about different implementations. So what we did with Dr. Narisa and this Heavenly Home in Thailand, which is a kids' orphanage place, is that we got the kids to draw some crayons and things like that, and then we digitized them. We're going to have a professional animator turn them into NFTs, and then put them on an international marketplace. And if we have some support, then if and when some child's NFT sells, that kid directly gets some money onto their crypto wallet, as well as the orphanage itself gets some operational funds. So imagine what your
not like the NCAA. It took them like about 80 years to decide to allow the athletes to get compensation for their value. So I mean, that's an incredible lesson to teach orphans at such a young age, that there is value in everything that they create in the world. It's just, I know you're going to explain more, but I had to stop you because it's just such a beautiful use case.
Right. So it is, we try to go both the ways. It's like you have to have the top end support what it is that is the real renaissance of 3.0 on the side of, let's say, what would be the Da Vinci's and Michelangelo's, and then you have to have the actual Web3 revolution happen from the bottom up, which is this one. And what's so exciting about it is that the first critique is, okay, so maybe you have one or two who have talent in drawing. That's not the case, because you need the organizational people, you need the sellers, you need all these kinds of skills that these kids are going to have, that they can organize around whatever Web3 creativity is. And it's not only art, you have so many different implementations that you can get those skills already at that stage. And imagine what kind of prospects you have if you're a 6-year-old orphan in Thailand at this moment. It's not going to be, the brightest future that is painted in front of you. So all of a sudden, if this kind of thing is injected into your idea stream and they start to feel what it is that they could do in order to get this ball rolling, then all of a sudden you have an organization. And that's quite something. That's exciting.
And what's where do people learn more about that project? Is it out yet?
Not yet. We're still, we have digitized the material. I can send you the video of the kids drawing and doing all of that stuff over there. Yeah, definitely. But no, it's not materialized.
All right, so just keep checking out Vesa, Art by Vesa, to learn more about that project. And what's your perspective on AI? It's another technology that's been around a long time, but has evolved faster, especially with the advent of generative AI. It's the talk of the town. So what are you doing with AI, and what are your overall sort of perspective on whether or not it's beneficial to creators and to the creator economy?
It's as always things are, it's polarizing, but it's very useful, and it's simultaneously very destructive, because right now we're going towards a little bit that kind of dystopian vision for art, at least, is that the machines are generating the art and the human beings are still cleaning the toilets. And that was not the intention of why we started making machines to begin with. And why do we make art? What is it about our soul and communication and connection that we want to kind of achieve with it to begin with? What is that, what we try to put on canvas or any other form in order to kind of make ourselves proud about what it is that we do, and make humanity around us kind of be happy about what it is that we do, that it's because life is so damn difficult that then we need to have some aspirations of what we go towards. And I'm not saying that you can't do it with AI, because especially with AI, many people can now aspire to do many creative things. And I think the future of art is somewhere where we're going is these 360 worlds where you can interact with the artwork and it kind of knows that you're there, and not necessarily even that someone is there, it knows that you, Josh, personally are there, and maybe that art experience is tailored to your preferences and views, and you get to say whether that experience is challenging for you or just beautiful or all those kinds of things. And you obviously as an artist don't want to paint these 360 worlds pixel by pixel. You want to have a good assistant with you in order to create it, and it's going to totally transform the film industry as we know it in 5 years. I don't even know if our film industry exists in 10 years anymore, in some sense of how we've known it to exist for over 100 years.
Well, it was this a little longer. I mean, they resolved the strike, at least the writer's strike, in a way that sort of gives the writers some longevity and sort of some protections in terms of the extent to which AI can take over writing scripts and whatnot. But yeah, I think there's a lot more that we don't know than we know at this moment in time. But I also think there's an opportunity for creators to reach new heights with their own creativity through using AI as a tool set, right?
Very much so. But there's one common saying now that is starting to annoy me a little bit, which is this whole thing is that you won't be replaced by AI, you will be replaced by someone who knows how to make AI. No, if you have a special effects program that essentially does something and one person can do a whole movie, you're replacing from just one movie 800 people. So you will be replaced by AI.
Don't sugarcoat some of the realities of this technology and what it is going to do. I mean,
learn how to code was just around the corner. Now ChatGPT does the coding for you. So that's becoming useless. So it's like the pace of evolution is just absolutely staggering.
Yeah, so it may or may not benefit you to dive into the tools that are available right now, because those tools could change in
2 years.
months.
Yeah.
I mean, they're releasing new products, Microsoft and Google, every week. We talk about them every week. There's like a major update. So I get it. Well, hang on for the ride, at least. And
Huddle on.
Where can folks find you on Twitter to keep up with what you're up to in this space?
Yeah, it's at Art by Vesa, Vesa, on Twitter and X, and artforcrypto.com.
Good to see you, my friend.
Josh.
And this will not be the first or the last meeting, I should say. We'll get a chance to hang out this week, and thank you for hanging out with us on the show. Hello everyone, welcome back to Edge of NFT, live in Roz. We're in the MENA region, getting an interesting perspective on what's going on here by having amazing conversations, meeting amazing people. And at this moment I have the pleasure to talk with Juliet Su, who's the co-founder and partner at NewTribe Capital. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
So I've heard so many exciting things about what you're doing to sort of bring the community together and sort of support not only economic investment in this region, but also cultivate partnerships and whatnot. Tell me a little bit about the genesis of NewTribe Capital and what you're up to.
Okay, sure. So we started here in the UAE 3 years ago as NewTribe Capital. And there was the whole vision behind the name. So basically what we wanted to achieve and what we heard that we are the new decentralized tribe of innovation, like the people which are located all over the world who are united by the same idea and the same trust into technology, the future of technology. So, and these type of people, they not that much are chasing the financial goal, but to have the influence and to impact the future of technology. So that's why we heard that the UAE might be a good base, and it was.
And that was when?
It was 2020, like 3 years ago.
So that's a long time.
Yeah, so we've got a long journey
Web3,
here.
I feel like I'm learning so much every day here, and this is a vibrant sort of place. To take a little bit about the answer to my question, but what have you seen happen over that 3 years, and what's your perspective at where the region is today?
Yeah, so as you can see, like there is a rapid changes happening here. And I remember then we started and because of course our major business is investment, and then we spoke with the project and we say, oh, we are based in Dubai. Lots of people were super skeptical because for them the good VC should be based out of the US. Or maybe somewhere like Silicon Valley, or maybe Singapore. And I was like, oh, we are in Dubai.
Crypto Valley, yeah.
So right now the situation is changing completely. So then you see that we are one of the oldest and the most active VC based out of Dubai. People would love to explore more. And what is interesting about this region, because I believe only in the UAE, there is a collaboration happening between regulators, investors, projects, and business community and institutional players. So there is a beautiful mixture where we can see the proper mass adoption of technology. Because at the end of the day, why we are here, what we are doing here, and we try for this technology to be adopted within the traditional businesses. So this is the place where we can have the open dialogues with the regulators. So, and we also collaborate with the regulators. We are the partners of Referral Digital Assets, Oasis. So we try to
tell us a little bit about this event and why it's happening. I got on a bus this morning after a busy night, right?
Nice.
Thanks to CoinW for a fun party last night.
Yep.
But now we're all here, and there's about 500, 600 people, all change makers. Like, what are we experiencing right this moment?
So what we experience basically is that we experience the infrastructure being built. So we are talking not about the technical infrastructure, we are talking about the physical infrastructure. We are talking about to providing the developers, investors, the place they can set up their company, there we can run their businesses. Then they have the beneficial regulations for the company.
And this is through RagDAO?
Yeah, RagDAO is the one place that they provide the regulation. So if you run any Web3 company, so you can set up in RagDAO. So probably open the bank account, because I believe one of the biggest problem for the Web3 community right now, it's open the bank account for their businesses.
Yeah, you get a bank account right away. That's very powerful.
Yeah, so I mean, yes, here we see, that's why it's called Crypto Oasis. So the government here is aimed to create the collaborative space with a beautiful infrastructure for all the builders, all the founders, investors, and build the proper ecosystem of different types of the player who involved in Web3 from different angles.
Very cool. So you have a slightly different sort of approach to sort of supporting your ecosystem than some of the other venture capitalists, I would say, globally, with these gatherings, right?
I called it, so basically, that is an interesting idea. One day I woke up in the morning, I was like, I need to do NewTribe gathering. It's not related to the brand itself. It's basically like, the idea we've got behind the brand back to the days, and now this idea is becoming so popular, and we see it as a network state. So that's exactly. So I created the very exclusive space and the event where we have the CEO of Vesa, Oasis. We have some C-level manager of Binance and lots of investors and top project founders get together.
Of these different tribes.
Yeah, so the leaders from the space get together in a very nice atmosphere, and then they have a chance to talk to each other properly and not getting lost. So there were very selected people who I just got together in one place, so they had a chance to have the proper discussion over there.
Very cool. Yeah, so I went to William Mary, and we were called The Tribe.
Yeah.
And then I had a food tech company,
Yeah.
and we called our community The Tribe. So I really relate to that word, and I think it aligns really well with what's going on in the space of blockchain and innovation, because we're crossing all ethnicities, we're crossing all geographical boundaries, and we happen to be, in a desert-like climate. So
exactly. Let's see why we call it NewTribe, and basically NewTribe Capital. NewTribe is one word because it's the new digital tribe, and digital, it's all about decentralization. So we are trying to create this new type of decentralized digital tribe. So those people who believe in the future of Web3 technology, and it's going to happen very soon.
So you have your eyes on the ground here. Can you give me a couple examples of what you think are innovative projects in the Web3 space that have gotten real traction that maybe people don't know about yet globally?
So basically, lots of people globally, they tend to consider that there are no developers in Dubai, right? So, but what I've seen that first of all, the community of developers are growing here, and then at the same time, there are lots of projects who are relocating to Dubai because they understand that they can find the proper founders and they can find the proper mass adoption here and the partnership, business development here, go-to-market strategy. So here is the space. Then you can go to the business development stage and to grow your company as it is, if it's like a Web3 company.
So what are a couple examples of projects that you think are kicking butt?
One is the one who was the very famous project because from the local Emiratis guys. It's called Moca. Moca is decentralized streaming platform.
Yeah, they were on a panel I moderated.
Yeah,
very
so
cool.
Very
what
cool.
They're doing, over 4 million users.
But see, there are different types of projects, because then people ask me, what are the projects that you can mention based out of UAE? So should I mention the project which is started in the UAE and get a global expansion, or vice versa? So it should be it should be the project who are just started somewhere and then they came to the UAE, right? So there are different streams happening. So at the same time, I can mention a few projects who are found their base here and they do business development here, or something like Honey and Michael.
Very cool. This has been fun. Where can people go to learn more about NewTribe Capital and what you're up to?
It's very easy. NewTribe.capital. That's our website. Yeah.
So check out Juliet's fund, and hopefully you have a chance to meet her if you come to this region at one of her gatherings.
Yes,
Thanks for your time
today. Thank you very much. Thank you for interviewing me.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of NFT reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of those links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.